Hello everyone, it's me Uncle John. Today I am going to read S6 6028, Arthur and the Popularity Test, Chapter 1. All across Elwood City, kids were getting ready to go to the community center. Be careful with those things. Sue Ellen's mother cautioned. They are fragile. I'm always careful, said Sue Ellen. She wrapped up a gong of pounded metal, a gold-shaped rattle, a small drum, and a tiny stringed instrument made of bent wood. Then she put them in her backpack. There, she said, perfect. Over at Fun's house, Fun was filling her pack too, with a cowbell and some rawhide strips. I think that's everything, she said. Then she looked up at her bookshelf. She pulled down a book, but maybe I should just leave it home. She thought, I doubt anybody will be interested. She started to put the book back. Don't be such a coward, a voice in her head scolded. Besides, even if you bring it, you can still chicken out at the last minute. True enough, Fun sighed. She added the book to her pack and hurried out the door. Francine was supposed to be going out her own door too, but she wasn't ready yet. Oomph, she grumbled, trying to fit a metal rod into her backpack. This backpack just isn't big enough. It already held a whole bunch of wooden dowels and some bells. There's no way to make everything fit, she muttered, glancing around the room. She noticed her sister's backpack lying on her bed. Catherine, she said aloud, your backpack is bigger than mine. Would you mind if I borrowed it today? Of course not, she imagined Catherine replying, after all, you're the best little sister in the whole world. So kind, so considerate, I can't refuse you anything. Take my clothes, my allowance. Thank you, said Francine, smiling. Just a backpack for now. She emptied out her own pack and shoved all the contents into Catherine's. At the Reed house, Arthur had also given up on fitting everything in his backpack. He needed a large shopping bag too. His father had put in a gourd, a bag of dried peas, some large tin cans, and a piece of cheesecloth. He tied the bag tightly onto the back of Arthur's bike. DW was watching. Don't forget the kitchen sink, she told Arthur. You've got everything else. Very funny, said Arthur. Mr. Reed, when he finished fastening the bundle, and stood up. You certainly do have a lot here. These spring break activity days are pretty serious. Arthur nodded, especially with Mr. Rappan in charge. His father gave the shopping bag one last pat. You're really going to make musical instruments out of all this? He asked. Sue Ellen has done it before, Arthur explained. She says our group will have the best project in the whole community center. I look forward to seeing the results, said Mr. Reed. Maybe you can give a concert afterward. Maybe, said Arthur. If I made noise with those things, said DW, I would get in trouble. Arthur just smiled. You might make noise. You're making music. Chapter 2. As Arthur arrived at the community center, the stuff in the shopping bag rattled and clanked on his bike. The Buster and the Brain walked over to see what all the noise was about. What is that racket? Asked Buster. Arthur laughed. All the stuff I have brought to make musical instruments. It doesn't sound very musical, Buster noted. Whose idea was that project? Asked the Brain. Sue Ellen's, said Arthur. She's in my group, along with Francine and Juan. You're lucky, said Buster. We were assigned to Muffy and Jenna. It's hard getting them to agree to anything. Buster and I want to make some futuristic armor, said the Brain. Muffy and Jenna want to weave biscuits. He and Buster both stuck out the tongues, made choking noises. Maybe you can figure out a way to combine your interests, said Arthur. I'll put some thought into that, said the Brain. Wishful thinking, said Buster with a sigh. When Arthur entered the crafty room, he took a seat at the table with Sue Ellen, Fun, and Francine. Did you bring everything? Said Sue Ellen asked. Arthur nodded. My dad really loaded me up. Wait till you see what I have made already, said Sue Ellen. She took out her instrument. I made these at home. It's easy. Arthur picked up the gourd rattle in one hand and tapped the drum with the other. Hey, I can play both at the same time. Fun cleared her throat. I had an idea, she said hesitantly. Everyone looked at her. Well, it's not a big idea, really. It is just something we could do along with the instrument. She slid the book slowly out of her pack. Francine grabbed it. Poems, said Francine, frowning. You have brought us poems? Fun nodded shyly. I was thinking that we could read a poem while we play the instrument. Or I could read while you play. It would be a kind of performance. I don't think I'll be making poem music, said Arthur, rattling the gourd. Francine put the book on the table. And no one would hear the poem over the instruments anyway. The fawn looked down. She was sorry she had even mentioned it. Okay, she said quietly. I guess you're right. She slid the book away again. Arthur dumped out all the stuff from his pack. Okay, here's everything from my dad. He looked at the pile. I have one idea already. He poured the dried peas into a can and covered it with cheesecloth. When he shook it, the can sounded like the gourd. Great, said Sue Ellen. Let's see what we can do with my stuff, said Francine. She emptied out her pack. Along with her dolls, metal bar, and bell, there was a magazine. Hey, said Francine, this isn't mine. Oh, I get it. This must have been in Catherine's backpack already. Arthur picked it up and looked at the cover. Popular Girl. He read aloud. He held it out at arm's length, as though it was radioactive. Yuck, this is for teenage girls. He dropped it on the table. I hope I didn't catch anything. Francine, Sue Ellen, and Fawn quickly huddled around the fallen magazine. Ooh, said Sue Ellen and Fawn. Let me see, said Francine. Remember, it came out of my pack. I hear that teen magazines have all sorts of strange and mysterious articles, said Sue Ellen. Do we dare look? Asked Fawn. Of course, said Francine, but not now, said Mr. Rapin, appearing from nowhere and sweeping up the magazine. He was in charge of the project, and he planned to keep the keys focused. You can have this book at break time, he said. The girls groaned, but there was nothing they could do. Popular Girl was just going to have to wait. Chapter 3. At break time, Francine, Sue Ellen, and Fawn quickly ran outside to read Popular Girl at a picnic table. Arthur kept his distance from them, but he stayed close enough to hear everything they said. It says here you can get the prom date in 12 days or less, said Fawn. What's a prom? Some kind of dance, I think, said Sue Ellen. You have to wear a really uncomfortable dress, said Francine. How do you know that? Asked Fawn. I heard Catherine talking about them. Lots of time the dress won't even fit in a regular car. You have to take a limo. That could be fun, said Sue Ellen. Francine shuddered. Not if you're uncomfortable. I'll bet you anything that those dresses itch too. Fawn and Sue Ellen nodded. Did I hear someone mention dresses? Asked Muffy, who had just come outside with Jenna. Uncomfortable dresses, said Francine. Muffy wasn't listening. Is that Popular Girl? She gasped. The other girls nodded. I can't wait till I'm old enough to know what they are talking about, said Muffy. Then I can do everything they say. She pointed to a picture of a girl in a shiny green and orange striped mini dress. I'll be just like the model. She sighed. It'll be heaven. Buster and the Brain came up behind her. They looked at the picture too. That dress looks like the one big lollipop, said Buster. An all-day sucker, the brain added. Murphy rolled her eyes, as if you to know everything about fashion. Francine flipped through a few more pages. Here's a quiz, she said. How likable are you? Let's take it, said Murphy. I heard these tests can tell you a lot about yourself. Here, everyone take a piece of paper to write down your answers. She tore sheets from her notebook and handed them around. Arthur Buster and the brain laughed as they took their sheets. We don't need some dopey test to tell us if people like us, said Arthur. That's true. We can tell by the looks on their faces. Well, looks can be deceiving, Murphy reminded them. Never mind the boys, said Fun, who had found some pencils in a pack and was passing them out. What does it say? Francine read on. Question number 1. If you were a sandwich, would your friends be a potato chips, diet soda, the plate, or hungry? Definitely potato chips, said Arthur. I agree, said the brain. The test is making me hungry, said Buster. Did anybody bring a snack? The girls all ignored them and wrote down their answer. Francine read the next question. If you could bring one thing to a desert island, would it be your telephone, your mirror, your 10-speed blow dryer, or your kitchen? This one is harder. Francine bit her tongue in thought before making a choice. But before she could continue, a huge gust of wind blew the magazine off the table. It spun end over end. It landed in a mud puddle. Is it still readable? Fun asked anxiously. Francie ran over and picked up the soggy, dripping bundle of glab. Sorry, I don't think this patient is going to make it. She dropped the magazine into the trash can. Oh well, that's the end of that. When Francine and Arthur got on their bikes at the end of the day, they were still talking about the test. It was weird, said Arthur. Those questions were so strange, and even stranger answers. Who would think of a friend as a potato chip? The test was written for teenagers, Francine explained, so you never know what to expect. Teenagers don't think the way we do. They don't. That's what I'm always thinking about DW too. Hey, you don't suppose she's a teenager in disguise? No, I think we're just surrounded by craziness. Believe me, I've watched my sister Catherine in action. Scary? Arthur asked. Very sometimes. When I'm lying in bed, I think about Catherine and her friends and try to imagine being their age, the way they talk and dress. The Francine shuddered. After that, I can sleep for hours. Thanks for cheering me up, Francine. Life is hard, Arthur. You better get used to it. Oh, really? And I suppose you're an expert. They continued the conversation as they rode off down the street. Fun watched them go. As soon as they rounded the corner, she ran over to the trash can. Then she pulled out Francine's magazine, Popular Girl. Didn't look very crisp, but at least it had dried out. Fun sat down on the step, trying to separate the pages. What are you doing? Asked Swellen. Oh, it's you. I thought everyone had left. I was thinking to Mr. Rappan for a minute. He had a question about how to tune some of the instrument. He was. Are you listening to me? Sorry, I was just concentrating on trying to read this to the wrinkles. Sue Ellen frowned. Why bother? She asked. I just wanted to answer the rest of the question. At the end, you can find out how likable you are. He said it's very scientific. So, Fun smoothed out the pages. Aren't you curious about yourself? No. Well, maybe a little. She sat down on the step next to Fun. So what do we have to do? Finish the test. Okay. So where were we? They went through the rest of the question, including one asking about their superstition, another on what they would say when meeting aliens from other planet, and the last, which asked what kind of movie was best for the first date. How are we supposed to know all this stuff? The directions say there are no wrong answers. Just choose what feels right. Some minutes later, both girls were done. I think my feelings are all used up, said Sue Ellen. Mine too. Now we should figure out our score, then we'll know what to do next. Chapter 5. Fun turned to the answer page. Are you nervous? A little. Of course that doesn't prove much. I'm nervous a lot. Just remember, it's only one test. I always say that when I don't expect to do very well, I got a 12, she said finally. Is that good? Let's see what it says. If you score less than 20, you are too quiet. You might be likable, but nobody would know it because nobody knows you're there. Fawn looked at Sue Ellen in horror. Oh, no, that's my worst nightmare. Everyone was at their seats as Mr. Raven took attendance block. Pastor Murphy, where is Fawn? She's been absent for 4 days. Here I am, cried Fawn from the back of the class, but nobody looked up when she spoke. I don't understand it, Fawn muttered. Then she looked down at herself and gasped. She was transparent. I'm like a sheet of glass, said Fawn. I can see right through me, and that must mean everyone else can too. I don't know what Fawn is thinking. I'm gonna have to call her parents. Ooh, the class sat together, but I'm right here, Fawn shouted. It didn't help. No one could hear her. The bell rang, and the kids filed out for recess. They all walked right to Fan. This is terrible, she sighed. Is there any hope? Asked Sue Ellen. Fawn blinked. I don't know. She looked farther down the page. Yes, yes, they have advice. Be strong, it says. Low score means you hesitate to speak your mind. Say what you want, whether anyone wants to hear it or not. Now it's my turn, said Sue Ellen. She looked over the answer key for herself. I scored 125. That's great, said Fawn. It says here that if you scored over 120, then you're too good to be true. You frighten people with your excellence. Tone it down. Sue Ellen lowered the magazine. She was shocked. Well, you're good at everything, Sue Ellen. In the band room at school, Sue Ellen and Arthur were practicing. Sue Ellen was playing a sax solo. Suddenly, Buster stood up and dropped his tuba in despair. What's the point? He said, I'll never be as good as you, Sue Ellen. Arthur banged his head on the keyboard. I'm frightened by her excellence. The Binky stared at her, then at his clarinet. I might as well stick my tongue in a drawer and never blow again. Everyone stormed out, leaving Sue Ellen blowing a last sour note. What am I going to do? Said Sue Ellen. What are we going to do? Fawn corrected her. Sue Ellen was silent, then she snapped her finger. Wait a minute, we have friends, so this test must be wrong, right? She looked hopefully at Fawn. Well, this magazine is for teenagers, so you must be predicting the future, our future. It's not too late, said the test is a warning. Sue Ellen lowered her hands. Starting tomorrow, and said firmly, we have to change it. She took a deep breath. If we don't, we'll become friendless for the rest of our lives. The end.